For my first build, we're going to go over one of my Titan builds. The Grandmaster meta right now requires most Titans to be running Code of the Commander, which comes with Banner Shield. You're going to be wanting to pair that with the exotic Ursa Furiosa to get your super back very quickly. You can usually get upwards of 3/4 of your super just by blocking damage for your teammates, and you're going to be able to chain orbs to have your super up pretty much all the time. As for stats, we're going to try to get towards 100 intellect and 100 recovery, so we can have our super up at all time and heal when we're out of combat very quickly. For combat style mods, we're going to be running a protective light build as well as reactive pulse. For our combat style build, we're going to be wanting to run a protective light build. And in order to get charged with light, we'll use taking charge because it's pretty easy, and we're going to be using a lot of supers in this strike because there are a lot of enemies, so there'll be a lot of orbs on the ground. We'll pair that with supercharged, which will allow us to get 4 stacks of charge with light. So we can pick up 4 orbs and we'll get 4 stacks of charge with light. And then obviously we'll use protective light in case we're in any danger. We can get that damage resistance. We'll use radiant light as our 4th mod because there's not much else we could use, and it allows our allies to get charged with light because we're going to be popping our super so much. Also gives a nice plus 20 strength, which is pretty helpful. And for our 5th mod, we'll just be using Reactive Pulse in case we're surrounded at any time by an enemy. It can help us stay alive. Also, gaining a powerful overshield while performing our finisher is going to be helpful. We'll also be using Spoils of War to generate heavy ammo. So that's why it's important to use Reactive Pulse, so you get that overshield while you're performing a finisher. It doesn't take away our super or anything, so pretty helpful. As for weapons, you're probably going to want to run Anarchy because it's so strong in Grandmasters. As well as a primary of choice and a special of choice. For your primary, I would either choose a pulse rifle for anti-barrier, submachine gun for anti-barrier, or a hand cannon for unstoppable. You can coordinate with your team to see what you need. On me right now, I have a bunch of the possible primaries and secondaries, primaries and special weapons you cold use, like Cold Denial, Sacred Providence, Escape Velocity. These are just all a bunch of different weapons you could possibly use in these 2 slots. If you don't have Anarchy, I would recommend a heavy grenade launcher. 2 of the really good ones this season are the Blast Batu and the Crowd Pleaser. Chain Reaction is a really good perk and will help with added clear, as well as if you can get one with, I don't have one, I don't believe I have one, but if you can get spike grenades on one of these, that's also pretty good for damage. And because you're not using Anarchy, you probably want to use Ariana's Vow. It'll help with anti-barrier champions, and it's also not too bad for boss damage. And then, because you already have anti-barrier, I'd probably pair this with some sort of hand cannon for unstoppable. The champions in this strike are barrier champions and unstoppable champions. You've got some unstoppable ogres, barrier servitors, and barrier knights, I believe. There are Arcan solar shields as well. So no need to really run anything void or any sort of overload weapons. Just your anti-barrier and unstoppable will get the job done. As for the Hunter build, it's the pretty standard Hunter build you'd run in any Grandmaster. You're going to want to run Way of the Pathfinder. For your exotic, you could run 6 Coyote, but you could also run Frosties. Frosties is very strong. Or you could even run Graviton Forfeit if you felt like running that as well, if you're making a lot of Spoils of War's finisher. For our combat style, we're going to be using a Protective Light, as well as a high energy fire build. On the Hunter, I found a pretty good build when I was doing some solos stuff that I'd like to share. So obviously you start off with Protective Light, so when your shields are broken you take less damage. The way we're gonna get charged on this is Charge Harvester. You could also switch this out for taking charge if you feel like you're not getting Charge Harvester to proc enough. But basically this doesn't require you to get any orbs or anything. You literally just kill stuff and you get charged with light after a bit. We'll throw on high energy fire, stacks on stacks, so that way with Charge Harvester we'll get 2 stacks every time. So because Charge Harvester doesn't work if you already have a stack, this is the easiest way to get 2 stacks by combining stacks on stacks with Charge Harvester. And then we'll use Reactive Pulse in case any enemies get right next to us. It will only take 1 stack away. So we're kind of using a little bit of everything. So you can always, if your team is making a lot of orbs, I would go with taking charge. They're kind of interchangeable. As for weapons, basically the same thing I did on my, basically the same weapons I went over on my Titan. You're going to want to run Anarchy if you have it. Any sort of primary that has an anti-champion capability, so pulse rifle, hand cannon, or SMG. And then for your special, you can run double primary, but I recommend running a special, either a sniper or maybe a truth teller with blinding or spike nades or something like that, just to help your team out. The boss room's pretty hectic, so blinding nades may be a good play. Close range is probably going to be better for the boss room, so like an SMG. You don't really need a pulse rifle in that boss fight. You're going to want something to help you clear all those thrall. You could also run Wave the Trapper with Orpheus Rigs if you feel like your team needs more orbs and you're having trouble with ads, but the invisibility for your team on Wave the Pathfinder is probably going to be stronger. If you don't have Anarchy, you could always run Xenophage, and it's not too bad of a substitute. For Warlock, you're pretty much going to always be wanting to run Phoenix Protocol with Well of Radiance. Being able to get your super, usually 10 to 15 seconds after it runs out, from the orbs from like a banner shield or a tether, it's very, very strong. If you have multiple Warlocks, you could put one of them on Stasis with I have another world or something like that, but for the most part, if you only have one Warlock, you're probably going to want them on a Well of Radiance Warlock. For our combat style mods, we're going to be combining both a Charge with Light and a Warmind cell build. So we'll use Taking Charge as our quick and easy way to get Charged with Light, and we'll pair that with Protective Light. So we can always have Charge with Light and Protective Light just to stay alive better. It's a very, very simple combination. And then for our Warmind cell build, we'll use Wrath of Rasputin with Warmind's Protection and Global Reach. So if we get any kills with our grenade, we can make some Warmind cells and then just kind of leave them on the ground, so enemies deal less damage to us. You can also blow them up, but I didn't really see any point in using any more Charge with Light mods, so I decided to go with that. You can also throw Spoils of War on your Bond if you want to for heavy ammo. You only really need 2 people doing that, so it's not necessary. Not even 2. You only really need 1 person with that on their class item, so figure that out among your team. You're also going to want to probably run resist mods. If you have a Solar Phoenix Protocol, probably Solar Resistance and Melee Resistance. Concussive Dampener is also going to be very strong. The only mod I wouldn't recommend is Sniper Damage Resistance. But if you wipe at all in the Grandmaster, just figure out what was dealing the most damage to you, and then you can slot in those resist mods as needed. There's not much difference between these builds and any builds you've been running in past Grandmasters, just because the meta is going to pretty much stay the same in where pretty much every enemy has the capability of 1 or 2 shotting you. The only real difference this week is that there are no Overload champions, because the Disgraced Nightfall is all barrier and unstoppable, so there's no need for Overload nades or scout rifles. If you want to play long range, go with a pulse rifle, but most of the encounters are pretty close range. There are a few servitors that are a bit far back, or barrier knights, that you may want 1 person with like a pulse rifle with anti-barrier, but the other people should probably use an SMG or a hand cannon for that closer range stuff. That's about it for this video. If you liked it, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I'm going to try to upload one of these videos every day. Every day there's a new Grandmaster, so for these last 4 weeks, so we've got Disgraced, Scarlet Keep, and a couple others. I'll try to make videos and try to release them like an hour or so, like this one, before the Grandmaster releases. So because I'm recording these videos before the Grandmaster Strike actually releases, there may be a few differences than I anticipated, so make sure to check the comments, any pinned comments I'll leave in the description to see if I recommend any changes. That's about it for now, so have a good one.